Some years ago, I found myself standing at the very point where Augustine, sent by Pope Gregory the Great, had landed on the Isle of Thanet on the east coast, the southeast of England, in 597. We know the story how the good Pope had seen these blue-eyed, fair-skinned, blonde-haired slaves being sold in the market in Rome. Who were these and where did they come from? Angli sunt domne remitissime. These are Angles. Non-Angli, sed Angeli. Evangelizzandi sunt. Not angels, but angels. They must be evangelized. And so he knew how to hit hard. Only God can do the work. And so what was needed was a work guided and led by the Spirit of our God. He picked therefore a sound monk in the area, St. Augustine, superior of the monastery of St. Andrew on the Celian Hill, and a hand-picked bunch of good and holy monks to go with him. They took the Roman books and began to hit hard, having arrived there on the Isle of Thanet, going further inland and discovering that the King of Kent, Ethelbert, was actually an open vessel with whom they could collaborate. When one hits at the head, then the rest will follow. And grace, and also miracles as it happens, we know from the testimony, followed, and by the Christmas of 597 there was a great pastoral joy of being able to have a large number of baptisms. And so he was able to return, not to Rome but to France, report what was going on and obtain what was necessary by papal rescript, episcopal consecration. And so returning a second time, by now a bishop, and also being sent reinforcements, more monks by Pope St. Gregory, with books, liturgical books, and instructions to have a beginning at least of a structure, of hierarchical structure, he began to work. He was to have a suffragan bishop at London and another at Rochester, and the main see was to be where he was in the heart of Kent, Canterbury, the Church of St. Peter. And so the link was there with Peter from the beginning. Pope Gregory, of course, was the Pope who wanted a certain standardization of things. We have to this day the expression Gregorian chant, not that he was so much the composer thereof, but the codifier thereof. And the standard body went around and is still being used to this day. We forget the antiquity of this body of chant. And it doesn't age either, or become hackneyed. When one uses the Gregorian chant, one rests on the centuries, and there's no need for innovation. What has always worked, works perfectly well. And one doesn't need either the complication of an organ. It's better when the voice is left in its purity, and the echo is allowed to settle up in the rafters and transport the prayer of the heart to the highest heavens. Calm and pose, as the centuries always were. Why are we always fighting against deadlines, as though the optic of life was to beat a deadline? Maybe heaven is allowing this terrible plague to remind us that the deadlines are not what we think. there is a grace in a calm pose mode, where interiority can become center stage and not exteriority. Why are we always in a hurry? Why are we fleeing? Are we afraid of reality? And why do many in this pandemic not obtain the grace of blessed solitude, but cancel it immediately by the almighty pressing of a button? Anything but pausing before the one who made us and the one who gave us, for a while, time. It is therefore a blessing for our time that we can, with these saints, enter into glory, remembering that these succeeded because their work was based in prayer and contemplation. That is the way to do the work of the Lord. England was Our Lady's dowry. It was a jewel the demon wanted in his crown and got through one man's problem. Under Elizabeth, the first new Archbishop of Canterbury, Matthew Parker, was ordained by Bishop Barlow. But Leo XIII defined and examined closely that the intention was deficient, the matter was deficient, the form was deficient, and the result was the orders were deficient. Omnino irritum, utterly null and completely void. And so the structure is there, but the presence is not. The Holy Spirit wants England back and wants to explode again on the altars of old with all the power of the centuries, unchanged but eternally calm.